I've got to set the scene, right? Have we got a scene setter? All right, here we go. A scene setter. Here's Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, walking in the woods.
How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you? Are we good?
Thanks for doing this, then.
No,
really
problem
good.
at all. No, it's great to see you. And
do you know this part of the world at all?
no, and I was thinking, I've obviously just driven here today. I was thinking, you either go to Wales, you either go to the Lake District, or you go to Blackpool. I went to Blackpool, but I've never been. How did you find this place?
So my parents brought us here every single year when we were growing up. They love the Lake District.
Yeah.
They went on the honeymoon there, and so I've been here so many times.
So there's Keir Starmer with our old friend Gary Neville in the woods, apparently just staggering around fighting. Who knew that they were going to meet each other? Sorry, Chloe, I know this sounds completely mad. There's no news at all, right? It's just Keir Starmer, no donkeys involved. Right, he hasn't brought any donkeys with him. He hasn't brought the donkeys that he bought for his parents with him.
That's
he
a
just
shame.
liked. He says
I really want to know what happened to the donkeys.
Yeah, I know.
Where are they? Are they still alive?
I don't know, but they used to go. Apparently, him and his parents used to go to the Lake District all the time. Even though his mother was very ill, apparently, and his dad was a tool maker, so he had to obviously take some time off from running the tool making factory.
Is he just trying to show that he occasionally leaves London?
Yeah.
And he's not completely out of touch with the country?
Right.
Well, I'm not sure how many constituents there are to speak to in the wilderness.
There's nobody to speak to.
Other than Gary Neville.
Also, everybody knows. And imagine going into the woods and by chance running into Gary Neville.
Oh.
Isn't that lucky?
Yeah, they're both
so fortunate.
Coincidentally all mic'd up and ready for it.
Yeah, and all ready for it. And Gary Neville there going, yeah, do you come here often? I mean, it's like some kind of gay, fantasy, isn't it?
It's so...
Sorry. I mean, nothing to do with me. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care. It just seems a bit weird.
Yes, it's very strange. And
then I met this man in the woods.
I mean, this clip is from before the general election.
Yeah.
He liked to put out these bromance heart-to-heart videos. He did one with Sadiq Khan where they sat down on the sofa together and said, "Oh, isn't Islamophobia so terrible? I guess we must clamp down on Islamophobia."
Oh, we must. Yeah, it's got to do that.
So he did one with Sadiq Khan, and he's done one with Gary Neville, and for some reason a lot of us haven't seen this one.
Well, don't worry, we've got loads more. Let's have another look at the bromance between Gaza and Keir.
The country are desperately disappointed, just generally, in politicians. They quite often use language like they're all the same, two cheeks of the same backside. How do you change that? Because that is something that's been set now for quite a few years.
Action, not words. I don't think people are going to believe that politics has changed until they see it has changed. The first thing is returning politics to service. It's a public service. You're here to serve the country.
It's a public service. You're here to serve the country. This is all before he got elected, by the way.
I know.
It's so wooden, isn't it? It's like, Mr. Men go to the woods together. Here's Mr. Really Straight, and here's Mr. Footballer. It's about public service.
Yeah, I'm still not entirely convinced that Keir Starmer is a human. I think he's some sort of puppet
droid.
Or some AI robot, because I've yet to see an ounce of personality come out.
Except without the charm.
Yeah.
I mean, C-3PO was quite funny. He's not funny.
No, he doesn't have an ounce of charm in him. I mean, I would probably struggle to.
Can you imagine being his? I mean, I don't wish to castigate you as a woman, right? But can you imagine being his wife and sitting down for dinner?
I don't think there'd be much sex appeal now.
No. How did he ever even find a woman that was willing to marry him?
I know. I mean, remember when... And also, I mean, remember... It's like a segue,
Would you like to go out for a drink? No.
Remember the Matt Hancock COVID romance, and all of us just thought, how on earth is he getting any?
Yeah, but
he's so weird.
Yeah, but at least Matt Hancock is sort of slightly, I don't know, he's a bit of a scoundrel.
He's got a bit more personality than Keir Starmer.
He's a
but
cheat.
The bar is low.
He's a cheat. He's a scumbag. He doesn't really care about anybody else. So, some women find that appealing. But with Starmer, he's got nothing. It's literally nothing. You're kind of going, would like you to see my collection of books about railways or something, Come back to my place and have a look at my collection of books. You wouldn't, would you? You just wouldn't.
No. And sometimes you go for the weird nerdy guy.
Yeah.
He's either got brains or money, and I'm not sure he's got that much
He's
of either.
got neither. No, that's the thing.
I mean, you might have a few freebies from Lord Ali, and you might get a few free concert tickets.
I've got some new sunglasses I can show you, which is I'm giving to Lord Ali. All right, more from the Walk in the Woods. I don't know why we're doing this. It just seems like the right thing to do because there's no news, right? Literally no news. Here we are, part 3 of Keir Starmer and Gary Neville in the woods together.
Because you only came into politics 9 years ago, and you're actually in a position now whereby you could, in a few weeks, be in the top position in the country. How has that happened?
Well, a lot has happened in that time. We lost our way as a party when we got too out of kilter, if you like, with working people and what they really care about. We had to change all that, bring the party back and put itself in a position to win an election. For me, it's been about duty. What are the guiding principles? In our case, country first, party second, so that was a choice for staff.
Yeah.
Are you making this decision based on what matters to the country, or are you making this based on what you think is going to matter to the party? For the second, I'm not interested.
Yeah, country first, party second.
It's not aged well, has it?
No, it hasn't really
and
done.
we've got more clips to see where the list goes on
a show in the woods.
Broken promises.
Yeah.
Remember, he started out saying, "Oh, it's all about action, not words." What action have you taken in the past year? Anything?
Yeah.
I mean, the boat crossings are going up, the economy is crashing, and the list goes on. They're not building any homes. The planning approvals are at a 13-year low, apparently. What
the
action
economy is
have you
literally
taken,
the
economy. It is all words and no action.
The economy is
from
in
him.
the toilet, right? Let's not forget. Digital ID, which I want to bring up, is in the front page of the Telegraph today. Digital ID, which he didn't even mention in his speech, the finishing speech at Labour Party conference. Front page of the Telegraph today says digital ID cards are set to be used to access tax records under Sir Keir Starmer's plans to embed the technology into everyday life. And he's talking about how fantastic it's going to be with digital ID, which nobody wants, by the way. You know, when he started it, people were 35% in favour of it. By the time he'd finished talking, they were minus 14% against it.
And that shows how terrible of a communicator he is.
But apparently,
it's so clear that this has absolutely nothing to do with illegal migration.
No,
they are
not.
I am waiting with ears open for somebody to make a good argument as to how on earth this stops illegal migration.
Yeah.
I am yet to hear it. It's very clear that they are bringing it in for other reasons. And now we are seeing that because then they're saying, oh, actually, yeah, maybe it might be to do some other things. Maybe it's going to be used so we can spy on you all the time. We know exactly where you are and what you're spending. And I don't like to be some sort of conspiracy theorist, but I'm yet to hear a good argument as to how this stops illegal migration. They are very clearly using illegal migration as an excuse to bring it in for other reasons.
Right.
And he's just looking at it from an expediency perspective and going, oh, well, it will make it quicker and easier for you to show your ID when you want to buy a bottle of booze or if you want to work. He doesn't quite understand the privacy concerns because he doesn't really have an ideology. He doesn't understand the principles of liberty and privacy. I mean, you saw this in his EU reset negotiations as well. He doesn't understand sovereignty and why people want to be governed by their own rules. He doesn't understand why people voted for Brexit. And so he just looked at a spreadsheet and goes, if we align with all of the EU's food rules and we sign this deal, we'll have this big uptick on our spreadsheet for the economy. He just doesn't. As I said, he's like a robot.
No, it doesn't compute.
He doesn't understand what matters to human beings on a philosophical level.
Right.
And he's just completely out of touch.
He is. And because all we've ever seen about the ID scenario is him talking about, as you say, illegal migration, as if it's a magic bullet, as if it's going to somehow stop it. But this is the government that we've got. They try to tell us things that we will sort of embed in our brains and go, oh, yeah, digital ID, illegal migration, all good, that will all stop. But it won't. But they sort of give us this idea to put it in our heads as if that's going to be the answer. And it's not the bloody answer.
He thinks that we're stupid.
Yeah.
He thinks that whatever he says, we are going to fall for it. He thinks that he can tell us, oh, we're cracking down on illegal migration because we've deported 35,000 people.
Right.
Do you think we're stupid? We know the 35,000 people didn't come here on boats. We know they're just people who overstayed their visas. They're constantly putting out headlines. Remember when they were all talking about, oh, we've massively cut down the NHS waiting times. You just stopped a few strikes. You haven't fundamentally changed the system. And then this with digital ID, oh, we'll just tell people it's all illegal migration and they'll believe it. No, sorry, we're not thick. We're not going to fall for it.
No. We're really not.
We're living in this world where we've got social media. You get so much scrutiny. You get so much opinion. Everybody is going to rip you to shreds if what you say is not completely well thought through. But he doesn't seem to get it.
He doesn't seem to, and neither do his people. And that's the big worry, I suppose. Is that I was talking to somebody yesterday about the whole problem with PR in Downing Street. 7,000 public relations independent people.
I think Alistair Campbell is eyeing the job back up.
Yeah.
Did you see that on when what's she called, Steph Driver resigned?
Oh yeah.
The rest, not him on his personal account, but the Rest is Politics account retweeted the news about that and said, "Oh, if only there was a perfect person for this job."
Yeah.
Sort of wink, wink. And I'm thinking, is he coming back, Alistair Campbell? Is he going to throw his hat in the ring?
He's too mad. No, I think he's too mad. I don't think it can happen. He's going on his little tour with that other idiot that he's got. What's his name?
Rory Stewart.
Rory Stewart. Yeah, the complete maniac. They're apparently going on tour and selling. People are actually going to buy tickets.
For some reason, their podcast is really.
Yeah. Well, there's that many
all
stupid people in this country who want not to have Brexit, who think that they're the answer.
Well, you have all these liberal idiots who think that if they listen to the Rest is Politics podcast, that they are getting both sides and they're getting balance, because you've supposedly got one Tory and one person from the Labour Party, but actually they're both extremely left wing, and so you're getting no balance whatsoever.
Yeah, Rory Stewart's
He's barely a Tory.
As much of a Tory as I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And I'm literally not a vegetarian. Anyway, listen. We're going to talk some more about digital ID. We're going to talk some more about what's going on with the China case. And also, we'll let you know what Kemi Badenoch had to say yesterday, because she's on the front pages a lot about stamp duty this morning. This is Talk. Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 21 minutes past 6. It is, of course, the early days of Thursday, we should say, Thursday, 9th of October. Not much news going on today, really. Kemi Badenoch's all over some of the front pages talking about scrapping stamp duty. Let's get a voice note from Shane on Keir Starmer in the woods.
Morning, Mike. Shane here in Bournemouth. That video of Starmer and Gary Neville is the most staged pile of rubbish I ever did see. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think Starmer needs to just leave Labour now, and Gary Neville, he just needs to leave the country. Anyway, great show. Cheers, Mike.
It is embarrassing. If you just joined us, I think it's time to show just another clip from it. This is them talking about Rachel Reeves.
How do you really comfort people on tax? Because that is the biggest challenge to any Labour government. You can't manage the economy.
It's one of the reasons I appointed Rachel Reeves to the role of Chancellor, because she's obviously got Bank of England experience and she's got sort of iron rules as Rachel. She will not sign off anything unless it's fully costed and fully funded. Tax levels now are the highest for 70 years, so we can't just go and pull the tax lever. That's why we've said no increase in income tax, in national insurance or VAT. You've got to show, I understand, it really matters.
Experience? What
hilarious.
Experience?
Yeah. If
she's got Bank of England experience. You mean she's got no experience in the private sector?
Yeah, she works
and that goes for the whole cabinet, by the way, that they've all just been public servants pretty much their whole lives.
I mean, I wonder, you sort of want to see
she
them...
made some coffees, I think, and answered some complaints
as they walk through...
Wasn't an economist.
No, I'm an economist. I went to London School of Economics, studied economics at London School of Economics. I mean, we can play that clip till the cows come home. Imagine them walking down in the woods and suddenly Rachel Reeves pops out from behind a tree. Hello, I'm here. I've got an answer for how we're going to run the economy. Completely useless, right? And they think, as you say, that we're idiots. They think that they can kind of, palm us off with this absolute cobblers of PR, where they go, oh, here's Gary Neville and Keir Starmer just wandering about in the woods with some sort of vague idea of how they're going to run the country. It's embarrassing, isn't it?
It looks like some sort of acting from a Year 7 drama class or something. That's the level.
Honestly, it looks like the and I haven't seen much gay porn, but it looks like the beginning of a gay porn film. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then they end up like behind a tree doing some unspeakable things to each other.
And despite you've got both the awkwardness of just them interacting with each other, and then you've got the substance of what Starmer has said. Everything he said there has turned out to be a complete and utter lie.
Farrago of BS.
We will have to play that again after the budget.
We will.
After the budget,
listen.
when inevitably the taxes are going to go up, and now that we've had Kemi Badenoch announce that she wants to scrap stamp duty, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Rachel Reeves at that.
Well, listen,
I'm glad you
mentioned Rachel Reeves, because we've got some Rachel Reeves talking about her experience in the financial sector. Check this out.
At the same time, we also have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
It's a masterclass, isn't it? I don't know. I'm sorry. I know that there's no news today, right? And this is why we're doing this. I'm sorry about this. Should we move on to Kemi Badenoch, right? Who says that she's going to get rid of stamp duty?
One more thing on Gary Neville, though. We've got to mention.
No, listen, we haven't forgotten about it. Don't worry.
We've got to mention the fact that the terrorist that attacked the synagogue.
Oh yeah.
It turns out that he did call 999 and admit it, and said that he did it for ISIS.
Yes.
And the reason why I bring that up is because Gary Neville put out that video where he basically insinuated that the way that this attack came about is because of us evil lot on the far right putting up Union Jacks.
Yes. Angry, middle-aged white men, I think he blamed.
I don't think that
so
those
this bloke,
people putting up flags are part of ISIS.
The dead man who was shot dead by Manchester police, thank God, right, before he could kill any more people, was not white, he was not middle class, he was not in any way angry. He might have been angry, but he was not the man that Gary Neville said he was. You know, basically Gary Neville said it was all the fault of white, angry, middle-class men. What a complete and utter plonker.
I know. I mean,
stick to football, mate.
What planet is he on? I mean, these people, they will just try and they will spin anything to make it fit their narrative, their worldview, that everything that is wrong in the world is all because of patriotic, evil white people.
Yes, I know.
I mean, there's no way that you can spin attack on a synagogue, Jewish people, to, it must have been the evil British patriotic far right.
I know. Extraordinary. Let's have a look at Kemi Badenoch, who supposedly represents white, angry, middle-class people, men in particular, and maybe women. She's talking about stamp duty.
Stamp duty is a bad tax. It is an unconservative tax. The last Conservative government cut stamp duty for thousands of home buyers. But now we must go further. We must free up our housing market, because a society where no one can afford to buy or move is a society where social mobility is dead. I have looked at the rates you have to pay to see if we can lower them. I have decided that we can't, because that simply wouldn't be enough. Conference, the next Conservative government will abolish stamp duty on your home.
I mean, I don't care what she says, really. I mean, we've reached that point where actually it doesn't really matter. We had Mel Stride on Monday. We had Kevin Hollinrake on yesterday, who's the chairman of the Tory party. I said, the trouble is you're kind of irrelevant. Nobody really gives a toss what you say, gives a monkey's cuss what you do, because they're not going to be in power for probably a generation at this point, are they?
No, I mean, Kemi's lucky it's quite a slow news day today, because that means she has managed to get this across quite a lot of the
quite
front
a lot
pages.
of the front pages taking it seriously.
I'll give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
This is a good policy, and I think most people across the board have welcomed this policy and said that sounds like a good idea. But the problem is that is not going. People are saying, the Conservatives, they're back in the game now, and it feels like there is a little bit of hope, and maybe they'll have a small poll boost after this. We'll see what happens, but I doubt it's going to be anywhere near what is necessary to beat the Reform Party. Reform very much still have the momentum. She was trying to,
and they're sort of gripping the agenda, which the Conservatives are kind of following on after the event, very much after the Lord Mayor's show. They don't seem to have any. Nobody cares what they say.
It all feels too little, too late, and especially when this comes at the end of a conference that has been quite disastrous so far. I mean, you had them spelling Britain incorrectly on the chocolate. You've had loads of just rooms almost completely empty. They couldn't sell the conference out anywhere near it.
And there was no money there.
No, because normally they have it. It's like a posh freshers fair, and you have all of these business stands. But all they had was like Conservative Friends of India and all of these different groups. So the money has clearly left. And then you had, I think they thought it was going to be a really big win when they announced their immigration policy and said, we've decided, we've got a 200-page report, we've really thought about it, we are going to leave the ECHR. And everyone just thought, well, Reform are saying that anyways, and when we trust Reform more because they didn't fail for 14 years, so why does that give us any reason to vote for the Tories?
And we're going to give them a chance because you've had a go for 2 or 3 actual sections of government and you've done nothing.
They needed to do something to distinguish themselves from Reform. And I think although the Conservative Party has a very broad ideology, one thing that you do think about when you think of conservatism with a capital C is home ownership. And so I think stamp duty probably seemed like the right policy to try and redefine who they are. And then they tried to also paint themselves as the party of fiscal responsibility. That's what Mel Stride was trying to do when he was then going on the media rounds after this, and they're saying how they fully costed this, and they've got this new golden rule where half of the savings they make are going to go to eliminating the country's debt. But with all of these things, people look at the past record of the party and say, oh, well, you may well say you're under new leadership, but how can we really trust you?
Exactly.
Is it all going to be all talk
and no action? Because they're all the same people. You know, it's all very well for Mel Stride and for Kemi Badenoch and for, you know, Robert Jenrick all to get kind of, you know, I'm quite impressed with Robert Jenrick, I must say. But to hear them all say the things that they say and go, but you can't just completely, you know, kind of rationalise that you were no longer part of a government that you didn't agree with, and that, you know, you were part of a government for 14 years that didn't do anything, and now you say, well, I didn't really agree with what they were doing, and so now I've got a different idea. Nobody's buying that.
No, not at all. And I mean, one reason why I voted Reform at the last election, when at the time it didn't look anything like Reform would be able to ever be in number 10. A lot of people and myself thought, oh, we need to actually wipe out as many Tory MPs as possible just because we need some fresh faces in, because we can't trust a lot that were still there. But even though the number of MPs is massively reduced, the people in the shadow cabinet, the people running the show, it's all the same people, just as we say, shuffling the deck chairs around on the Titanic. And they may say, oh, I wasn't the Prime Minister at the time that there were failings with immigration, failing with the economy, but I don't think that completely excuses them.
No.
And there will be things where they say, oh yes, I really disagree with what happened there, I wasn't the Prime Minister, but they weren't exactly shouting from the rooftops, making a big scene about it. They were just sitting quietly, behaving themselves in their cabinet.
And that's the problem with what people see as the uni party, which is the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, who are both, as many people say, 2 cheeks of the same backside. And they don't want them anymore. They don't want to say, we will give our faith and our vote and our trust and our loyalty to any of these people because they're all the same. Whereas the untried and the untested Reform Party, we will give them a go, because why not?
Well, I think people, they're willing to take a risk. They're willing to take a chance. I mean, you saw with Brexit, very few people predicted that it would win.
That it would happen,
but they underestimated the willingness of the people of this country to actually take a risk and try something that is unpredictable. And I think that Kemi Badenoch thinks that she can make their experience the unique selling point of the Conservative Party, but actually it's not really helping. So what she did, she was good not to talk about Nigel Farage constantly, like Starmer and Ed Davey did at their conferences, because that came across a bit desperate, but there were hints. So at the beginning of her speech yesterday, she decided to thank all of her team and point out indirectly there, I've got a shadow cabinet, I've got a team, I've got a shadow chancellor and a team who've been able to think through and fully cost this plan to cut stamp duty, unlike the Reform Party who don't have a shadow cabinet. So she's trying to show we have a team, we have people, but I think most people think, look, Reform, they may not have it all together yet, but they still trust them to get it together over the next 4 years. And Reform, they are, you know, bit by bit, they're doing these press conferences in certain policy areas and outlining what they think. And I think people trust that they will get it together. They have some worries, but people think, why not give it a go?
Exactly.
Because the Conservatives have always had a team, but it didn't work before.
But also what went before and what's going on now is so useless that people are going, we're literally happy to try anything to make it better. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Mike, says Chris. Are they looking for land to put in a trust? Says Chris in Chester. Yeah, we never know. It seems as though every single member of the Conservative Party and indeed the Labour Party have got stuff in trust. We don't have stuff in trust, do we? This one from Diane in Southend-on-Sea. No, she says. I just switched on to see Keir Starmer and Gary Neville. Stop it. It's horrible. We're going to play you some more of Gary Neville and Keir Starmer walking around in the woods. I don't know why they're doing it. Nobody knows why they're doing it, but it's quite funny to watch. I'm Mike Graham. More after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, with you all the way through until 10 o'clock, of course. Chloe Dobbs is here, and we're talking about some of the stories in the papers this morning. Not very much news around today, it has to be said. And of course, you know, that means that we bring you our own version of the news, which is, to a large extent, pictures of Gary Neville and Keir Starmer walking around in the woods together in a very bizarre kind of, you know, homoerotic kind of film. I don't know what it's about. I don't know why they're doing it. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's get a voice note from John.
Morning, Mike. John from West Yorkshire here. I'm loving your serialisation of the new version of, I think, is it going to be Babes in the Wood with Starmer and Neville? How coincidental that they're wearing the identical uniforms, but have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, let's just replay the first part of Keir and Gary in the Lake District. Have a look.
How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you? Are we good?
Thanks for doing this, then.
No
really
problem
good.
at all. No, it's great to see you. And
do you know this part of the world at all?
No. And I was thinking, I've obviously just driven here today. I was thinking, you either go to Wales, you either go to the Lake District, or you go to Blackpool. I went to Blackpool, but I've never been. How did you find this place?
So my parents brought us here every single year when we were growing up. They love the Lake District.
Yeah.
They went on the honeymoon there, and so I've been here so many times.
Keir Starmer says his mother was really ill, right? I don't want to, you know, cause private grief or anything like that. But he's now saying his parents used to take him to the Lake District every year. I thought his mother was more or less incapacitated.
There are a few inconsistencies in his story.
Yeah.
I mean, for
his
example...
dad was a toolmaker, not really.
Well, didn't he say that he was a farmer? He said he used to work on a farm.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of people came out and said, no, he's never worked a day on a farm in the area.
Right.
What is the guy talking about?
He's just a liar, isn't he?
He is.
He's literally a fantasist.
Yes, he constantly lies. Everything that comes out of his mouth, you can be sure that it's not true.
Right. That's really worrying, isn't it?
I know.
Because what sort of person who tells those kind of lies ends up running the country? That's what worries me.
He lies and he lies and he lies, and I've got one thing I've got really fed up with recently is his constant lies about the Reform Party.
Yeah.
If you're going to combat them, actually address their policies properly rather than just make up a complete and utter lie. So when he did the interview where he infamously said that Reform's policy is racist on indefinite leave to remain,
I think it's racist.
He lied to the country because he said in that interview, he said, what this policy is going to do is it's going to kick out all the hard-working doctors, nurses and teachers.
Which was never going to happen.
And made a life for himself.
Right.
And I'm thinking, have you read the policy? Or are you just lying on purpose to misconstrue what Reform's policy is to the public? Because that's simply not their policy. Their policy says that if you've learned English and you earn a living rather than living off
and
benefits,
you contribute to the business of
I'm pretty sure a doctor, nurse or a teacher, they're all going to get to stay, right? So he's completely made this up. And they keep on saying... They keep on lying and saying that you have to pay for your healthcare under the Reform Party, and they put out all these graphics on Twitter where they say, "Oh, it's going to cost you 15 grand to get your appendix taken out if Reform are in power." Where have you got that from? Reform have said that healthcare will be free at the point of use. They might bring in some private contracting. Potentially.
Which, by the way, is already being done by the NHS. They bring in private contracting all the time.
Yeah, but you might decide to have somewhat of an insurance-based system where it's still free and you have a coupon system, but I can choose between GP A and GP B.
Right.
That's still free at the point of use. but they are putting out absolute lies to try and combat the Reform Party.
It's pathetic,
and it's not working. I'm sorry, but it's karma. You pay if you're a liar and you've got no integrity, you'll pay the price for it.
People are not buying it because they don't trust Keir Starmer, they don't trust Kemi Badenoch, they don't trust the two main parties to tell the truth about anything. Here's Starmer in India, where he is currently. Yesterday he went to visit some actors in Bollywood. Let's see what he's doing today.
This looks fantastic, and it's really good to see you. And the first thing I want to say is a massive thank you to all of you for being here in India with us, because this is the biggest trade mission that the United Kingdom has ever sent to India. And I think it's really good evidence of just how strong the relationship is and how many business opportunities there are. And we've got businesses, some of the biggest businesses doing deals and business with India, some of the iconic businesses, small businesses as well. So we've got all sorts of businesses here. We've got great academic institutions represented, brilliant universities that are already doing great stuff here and about to do even more of it. And then we've got art and culture, film, drama, sport as well. So a really important and big delegation. So thank you for being here. There's a real buzz about it already. I hope you felt that before we got on the plane and on the plane and all the way through.
Dear Christ. What, you know, what's he doing?
How many times did he say the word businesses there?
Business. Well, and also, how much is this costing us? You know, and why are we taking all these people to India for a jolly?
I mean, didn't David Lammy's department spend, what, 500 grand on just champagne and meals out?
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you can do business with India, great, fine, marvellous, fantastic. But why do you have to take everybody there at the cost of the British taxpayer?
This is the highlight of a politician.
Sorry, if you run a company, Chloe, and you want to do business with India, I'd be saying to you, very good luck to you, great business, good for the economy, good for the taxation scenario. But, you know, I'm not paying for you to go to India to go and do that business. Why should I?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what he loves. They love it. You've got all of these champagne socialists in the cabinet who have decided they're not in politics for the good, to help the country. They've made that clear over the past year that they are more sleazy than the Tories ever were. They painted themselves as all moralistic, but they love their freebies. They love all these fun trips abroad. And one of the reasons why they like these fun trips abroad is not just because of the fancy planes and the champagne flutes and the nice meals. It's because they get to escape this country where everybody actually holds them to account. People actually treat them with a nice reception, generally speaking, when they go abroad to these fancy conferences. Whereas when they're here and they're in Westminster,
here, they just get shouted at.
Exactly. They actually get held to account. And you get hordes of
people going, Keir Starmer's
exactly. They're not liked here at all on their own soil. What real politicians should be doing is spending their time getting out and getting to know the people of this country, rather than avoiding them because you're too scared to face them, and going out to other parts of the country. David Lammy, who we know he loves to gallivant around the world and have all the shame he's not foreign.
He's not going to go to
anymore.
Manchester again in a hurry, though, is he?
Well, when he went to Manchester, so the guy who was introducing him, he said, I actually allowed those people to heckle and let them let their frustration out because he thought it's actually good for a politician to hear what people on the ground around this country think. And maybe it was very embarrassing for David Lammy, but actually that's what politicians should be doing. They should actually be going out and listening to people around the country, rather than just living in your Westminster bubble.
Even if
and
what they're saying,
what people think online.
Even if what they're saying is not very palatable. Let's get a couple of messages in. Chris says, "Morning, Mike. The walk in the woods. What a joke! Oh, let's meet in the woods to make a film as if we just bumped into each other. Yeah, like that's exactly what Starmer does. Everything he does is fake." Says Chris. Beck says, "Good morning, Mike and Chloe." Margaret, currently in Tunisia, says, "It's not that Starmer doesn't get it, he just doesn't care. He doesn't like this country or the people. He wants to get closer to the EU. In fact, he's quite dangerous and a threat to this country. Also, he seems to be enforcing digital ID on companies imminently without any discussion." I mean, that is the other problem that the story about digital ID is. You know, it's kind of gone away. He didn't mention it in his speech at all, even though before the speech on the Friday, he was throwing it out there, you know, willy-nilly, trying to make as many people as possible talk about it. But people are not very happy about it. As I said, you know, minus 14% approval rating on the actual policy itself. And yet, he's going to try and push it through without really any kind of conversation at all with the public, without any debate in the House of Commons, without any debate in the House of Lords. You know, he can't do that.
It's completely undemocratic. When you're dealing with a policy that has such significant privacy concerns, it absolutely needs to be something that was on your manifesto, that you have consent from the public for. It's not something that can just be forced upon people when it's not just anything, but we're talking about an ID that would take away civil liberties. I don't know if he thought that this was going to go down well and this was going to be a success, or if he just wanted to put something out to take two things off the front pages, which was the Morgan McSweeney 739 grand story.
Which still hasn't gone away, by the way.
Yeah, and also the fact that his one in, one out policy was completely failing at this point, and I think he wanted to put something out before he went to conference to make it look like they are having some sort of success with illegal migration, to say, oh, look, we've got this big fancy policy that's going to sort it all out. Don't worry about the one in, one out policy failing. I don't know if that was his thinking, but it hasn't gone down well either way.
No, it really hasn't. More of your views, please. 0344 499 1000. Do leave us a voice note. Do call us. Do send us a message on X, which is @TalkTV. Or you can text us as well at 87222. Start your message with the word talk. This is the Home of Common Sense. We want to hear from all of you this morning because there's not much news around. So we're going to be navigating our way through some of the stories that we want to talk about, and also this bizarre video of Keir Starmer and Gary Neville wandering about in the woods in the Lake District. What's it all about? This is Talk. Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 6:51. We're almost at the end of the first hour already. Chloe Dobbs is here. Thank you very much indeed for being here, Chloe, when we haven't got an awful lot to talk about. Bit of breaking news, though. The signing of the Gaza ceasefire deal is reported to take place at 9 a.m. this morning. So in about, just over 2 hours' time, supposedly there will be a ceasefire agreement signed by not only Israel and Hamas, but also by the United States of America, who have sort of masterminded it all. We're going to talk to Charles Feldman now, just very briefly, US political analyst and host of the SOS America podcast. Let's have a quick look at, though, what Donald Trump said last night in the midst of signing some papers.
Find the criminal conspiracy.
Okay. I'm just given. I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly, so I will take a couple of more questions.
That was him last night in the White House answering questions from the press when he was handed a note saying, we're pretty close to a deal. Charles, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
What's the story and what's the deal?
Well, Trump had this 20-point plan for peace in the Middle East, and he had a lot of ultimatums that he gave both to Israel and to Hamas. And if you had to kind of decide who ended up blinking, I guess it would be both Israel and Hamas, because they now have agreed, apparently, for this exchange of prisoners. Hamas is going to give up, it says, those who are still alive and the bodies, of course, of those who are not. And in turn, Israel plans to give back to Hamas Palestinians who are in prison there. So that in and of itself is clearly an achievement, and hats off to Mr. Trump if he in fact was the one instrumental in getting that done. But I do caution to add that I started off by saying that it was a 20-point plan for peace in the Middle East. This is just one of the 20 points. So we are still a very long way from having this particular war ended in a fashion that would even begin to guarantee some sort of lasting peace in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that I suppose is the most difficult bit, isn't it? Whether or not it holds, whether or not, if all the hostages are released, what does that mean for Hamas? I mean, they must know that basically they will be wiped out and be sort of chased to the ends of the earth and killed, basically. So what's in it for them?
Well, look, once Hamas gives back the prisoners, they really lose their bargaining chip, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's not clear what their end game is, because part of that 20-point plan that President Trump has on the table would be for Hamas to give up its weapons, to cede control, any kind of political control of the Gaza Strip, allow an international commission that Mr. Trump wants to chair, along with other prominent politicians, including your former Prime Minister Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Whether Hamas is going to go along with that, they have not said. So again, it's good if all of this happens in terms of the prisoner exchanges, but it's a long way from fulfilling that 20-point plan, and it is certainly a long way from having any kind of a two-state solution, which is what the Palestinians want, and which is what Israel steadfastly refuses to do.
We shall see. Charles, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. US political analyst and host of the SOS America podcast. Chloe Dobbs is here with me. They're going to sign this deal supposedly around about 9 a.m. this morning, within the couple of hours of this show. It's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Yes, it's a step in the right direction, but I think people are getting too excited too soon, because although we've got this grand plan which says Hamas will have to seize control of Gaza, they'll have to lay down their weapons, that's what really needs to happen for there to be lasting peace. But this first phase that Hamas are agreeing to is simply a hostage release. We've also had cases where Hamas have agreed to release hostages in the past, and then that hasn't quite happened, and then I think they gave the wrong body for one of the hostages.
Yeah, a lot of them are dead as well. They've killed them.
Exactly. So Hamas can really mess people around, and I don't believe there's a high chance of Hamas agreeing to lay down their arms.
Right.
I mean, Donald Trump is a very good negotiator, so I think if there's one man to do it, is perhaps him. But we are a long way from getting to the point where Hamas is eradicated.
And the thing
no
that people
there.
don't ever really say, and this is really what I find insidious about some of the demonstrations that we've seen over the course of the last 2 years, and even now, on the 7th of October, the anniversary of 2 years of horror that these people have been put through, is that, basically all of Palestine is riddled with people who support Hamas, and whether you're in Hamas or not, or whether you support them or not, most of Gaza is now pretty much Hamas territory. They're not going to go, we'll just lie down, we'll just go quietly, we'll just forget about the fact that we hate Israel, the fact that we want them to be destroyed, the fact that we would rather kill a Jew than be friends to a Jew. I find it an intractable problem, ridiculously horrible, ghastly, bigoted place where they just don't want to be friends with Jews. It's as simple as that. They are racists, aren't they, in the end?
Yeah, I mean, there is just a huge amount of anti-Semitism there because they are indoctrinated. That's part of the...
They've been teaching kids how to fire guns, aren't they?
Exactly. They are teaching kids to hate Jews. They tell them all these mantras in school, and they tell them to be martyrs. And this is a huge problem. And I'm afraid, I know that people don't like the sound of this, but the only way that is going to possibly come to an end is if you have some people come in and just take over the place for a while. I know it'd be very unpopular if Israel does that, so I'm very happy to have some sort of other, at the Arab
apparently
states.
It's going to be Tony Blair.
Well, whoever it is, they need to be pretty cutthroat on not tolerating any rubbish, making very clear this is a population that are radicalised and we need to de-radicalise them, and they need to be very hot on making sure they cut, they stop in its tracks any arising extremist groups, because even if they get rid of Hamas, more and more will try to form, and they're going to have to be it's going to have to be a bit of a top-down approach to start with, to be honest. Yeah,
absolutely. And who knows if the Palestinians can even do that, because they're so filled with hatred about Israel that maybe they can't actually be turned around. We shall see. Chloe, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. This from Sean in Gloucester. He says, people have had enough of the same old lies from the two old parties, and certainly this current government, that have done nothing but supercharge the lies and the sleaze. Whenever the next election happens, the Labour Party will be totally wiped out, making the kicking the Tories got in the last election pale into insignificance. The silent majority have found their voice, and they want a genuine, fresh approach. Nigel and Reform may not get everything right, might not be able to do all the things they want, but if they achieve as little as 10% of what they want done, it's a biblical shift from what we've got now. Good point.